Hello everyone in the world of Blenderism. Welcome, I'm glad to see you. This episode is the second part about the Mercedes-Benz Roadster. During the editing process, I realized that modeling smaller parts will most likely take not one, not two, but three issues. Therefore, in this episode, we will work only on the front of the car. And we will start with the Mercedes icon, which is in the most prominent place. Therefore, it must be done as efficiently as possible. So, take the reference and place it at an angle of 90 degrees. In order to make a circle, add a mesh circle and place it opposite the reference. Change the size so that the vertices coincide with the outer part of the circle. In order to extrude it inward, use the key combinations E plus S. In order to conveniently move short distances, hold down Shift. Go to the inner symbol, a plane will help us make it, place it opposite the reference and also repeat the shape of the symbol, but only one part. Since we must have three identical parts. And in the future we will simply copy them. Remember the math lessons at school, our circle has 360 degrees, and we have three parts, so 120 degrees fall on one part. In order for the copying to be successful, the origin point must be in the center of the reference, or where the 3D cursor is. And so when we have three parts, we need to combine them into one. This is easy to do. Select them and press the combination Ctrl J, and in order for the vertices to be combined with each other, you need to press M and use the Merge by Distance command, and in the window on the left and change the Merge Distance indicator, change it to a slightly larger value. And whoosh, we are good. Next, select the edges, which need to be shifted along the Y-axis in order to set the thickness of the logo. After that, we need to drag the entire logo to the left side relative to the X-axis so that the mirror modifier works correctly. But since the plane with which we started was initially horizontal, the coordinate axes of the object are turned by 90 degrees. You need to press the Ctrl-A combination and select all transformations or rotation from the menu. Important: don't forget to check the box next to clipping in the mirror modifier so that the vertices are united at the coordinate point where y equals 0. Now vertices can be merged in edit mode. The same should be repeated with the triangular element. So, now I will need to apply all the modifiers that are on these parts for future operations. And to make the topology more stable, you need to add several additional edge loops to the circle. After which you can apply modifiers and shadesmas. But do not forget the main rule that modifiers are applied one at a time starting from the top so that everything goes correctly. For references, I used not only an image, but also a video from YouTube. Since you can see small details on it, I will attach a link to it to you in the description. Okay, let's move on to creating a leg on which the Mercedes logo stands. That's why I apply modifiers, so I have more faces to work with. So, select two rows of faces at the bottom and use the Alt-E combination to extrude the faces along the normals. But do not remove the selection from them, but immediately go to the Loop Tools add-on and select Circle from the menu, so that the selected faces become a circle. This is how we went from a triangular shape to a circle. You can add several edge loops to create a clearer surface. Now you need to select the 4 lower faces and extrude them down along the Z-axis. Here we also need to make a circle, but the 3 vertices that are inside need to be deleted for this. After that, loop tools will work correctly. Now you can make a circle, and I will also choose space in order to place the points at equal distances from each other. But we cannot increase the diameter of the circle because the mirror modifier interferes. It must be applied. After which, using the S button, we increase the diameter of the circle. Add a couple of edge loops and pull them together to get a semblance of a pyramid. And also add several edge loops for a clearer surface. So, now we need to make a washer on which this whole structure stands. To do this, select the bottom edge loop and extrude it in a circle. Then extrude down along the Z-axis and extrude inward to tighten the circle. To fill the last circle, I recommend using Grid Fill. This function makes the topology more stable than just pressing the F button. And so we add 2 edge loops to enhance the topology in a circle, and we can go to Boolean operations. A cylinder will help us with this. We need to make small dimples in a circle. And so we arrange it in such a way that it slightly touches our washer. We apply Shed Smooth to the cylinder, add several edge loops for reinforcement, so that after we add it we do not spoil the surface. It should be perfect, as this will affect the detail. Next, we add a mirror modifier, relative to the logo leg, in order to save time. The mirror will work correctly when the logo's origin point is in the center of the geometry. And immediately copy this detail to use it in the future, and hide it using the H button. Now hold down Shift, select the cylinder and then select the logo leg and press the Ctrl- combination. And cut off a piece from the washer. Well, as you can see, it went not perfectly. In order to fix this, you need to add a bevel modifier with the number of segments too, and also in the shading tab, check the box next to the reinforced normals. I really like how this setting works. But this is not enough for us. We need to add another subdivision of the surface in the subdivision modifier. And then we get the perfect result. Now we can return to the scene the cylinder that we hid and copy it around the logo leg, rotating it by 90 and 45 degrees. When the cylinders are in place, we select them. Last of all, we select the logo leg and use the Ctrl- combination to apply the Boolean operation. And as we can see, it worked. Not perfect. In order to fix this situation, the bevel modifier in the logo leg needs to be lowered to the very bottom. And we are good. It looks very good. Now, in order not to apply all the modifiers in turn, you can right-click on the logo leg and select Convert to Mesh, then all the modifiers are applied instantly. After which you can delete everything that gets in our way. And our part can be considered ready. Now we can admire it a little. Look at what topology we got after the Boolean modifier. It would be difficult to create this manually. Well, now you can place the logo in the most visible and worthy place on the car. And one more thing, as it seemed to me, it would not be superfluous to make, on the leg of the logo, such a step. Such small details give depth to our models. Well, that's good, it's better that way. The next element that needs to be worked on is the body. It needs to be given depth along the Z-axis. To do this, place it opposite the drawing so that the hood is in its place. In edit mode, select the faces on the body that need to be moved down and simply drag them along the Z-axis using the G button. Next, you need to strengthen the topology of the car body by adding edge loops. But there is one thing that these loops need to be combined using the J button. In order for the edge that is created to create new vertices at the intersection with other edges. Well, that's good. Now you can move on to the grid. I was a little hasty with the previous one, so we'll delete it, and along with it. You need to delete several faces to make room for the new one. But first, you need to strengthen the topology of the body by adding additional edges. This way, we'll preserve the shape of the body. Now I'll show you how to make a grill. In edit mode, with Alt pressed, select this edge loop. Copy it and separate it, use the P key to call up the quick menu. Now in object mode, press / to isolate item. It's more convenient and nothing gets in the way. We delete all modifiers except the mirror, we apply it. So good, now we need to work with the vertices and prepare them for the wireframe modifier. We need to make sure that the distance between them is the same. The Loop Tools add-on will help us with this. In the menu we select space. And the number of vertices on opposite sides should be the same. When the vertices are ready, we use grid fill and here is what we have. So now we can add wireframe modifier and set thickness to 0.002. But we need to add few subdivisions to make our grid right. We press / and see what we got, and we see that we need to delete several vertices. We press the W button to switch the selection mode to a round pointer and select what needs to be deleted. It is more convenient for me. That's all for now here. Next you need to make the side grids and the tubes that go into them. For this we use a plane. We unfold it and place it near the hood. Now you only need to remove the face, but leave the edges. Next, you need to extrude the edges a little to make some kind of frame. In edit mode, select all the vertices by pressing A on the keyboard, and extrude them along the Y-axis to create a frame. And as in the reference, move one of the corners a little to the side. When the frame is ready, then copy it, since we should have two of them. Well, then we have a familiar operation with the grid. Copy the inner edge loop, copying separate from item. Next, the same manipulations with the vertices. You need their number to be the same on opposite sides, and do not forget about the distance between them. So the long sides will have to be divided so that the final grid is squares. Apply the wireframe modifier and set the thickness of the grid. If necessary, further subdivide the faces. Well, I hope you can handle the second grid yourself. Since I hope you listen carefully. I write the texts myself, so do not think that this is artificial intelligence, the only thing I need it for is the voice. Well, okay, now I need to slightly adjust the body near the hood so that the grid and frame lie more evenly. I chose this method for a reason. The thing is that we will make the hood further and this strengthening of the topology will be useful to us. But first we need to finish with the pipes. We need to make round fasteners at the junction of the pipes and the grille. To do this, add a circle mesh. Turn it over and scale it. Next, extrude it inward twice so that later we can extrude the faces. Now you can apply shade smooth, add subdivision, add bevel. And also you need to add several edge loops to strengthen the topology. Next you need to add rivets. There is a cool add-on in Blender. There are a lot of bolts and nuts with different settings. But there are no rivets, probably because they are easy to make yourself. So we use a circle mesh and make a rivet with easy movements. I use it because it will not unscrew during vibration. They are also used in building airplanes. We need our car to be reliable. So we place the rivet opposite the part, go into edit mode and press the Alt-E combination and select spin in the menu. This will help us easily arrange them in a circle. Select the quantity and check the box next to use duplicates. Whoosh and done. That's the power of Blender. Now we can apply modifiers, combine objects and mount them on the grille. At this point, to create depth, you need to extrude the extreme edge loop a little. Press button 7 on the numpad, switch to the top view and set the desired angle for the object. When you are sure that the circle is the right size for the frame, you can make a copy and place it too. Okay, we can move on to creating pipes. In this case, we will need a Bezier curve. Add it to the scene. Place its vertices as we want the pipe to pass through. Rotate the vertices as we need, this must be done manually. Next, go to the curve settings, find the geometry tab and set its depth, and also increase the resolution to about 8. Now we can copy the pipe and install it in the adjacent place. Now you need to select edge loops through one in edit mode, the checkers deselect tool did not suit me in this case. So I do it manually. It does not take long. When you select, you need to switch the transform pivot point to individual origins and then we can reduce the size of all loops at the same time. Now it remains to add a bevel modifier. Set the segments to 2 and do not forget about the checkbox for enhanced normals. Repeat the operations with the second pipe, now the trick is that these parts should be on the other side, as in the reference. Ahahaha. So I'll move them there using mirror. I'll apply it. And then, in edit mode, I'll delete those that aren't needed. That's what happens when it's hot outside 36 in the shade. My head refuses to work. When I realized this, it was too late to stop. So, sorry. And so if you look at this reference, you can see that there is another grid in the front, with inclined elements. So I will create it for now, and then I will see how it is better with or without it. It does not take long and it is better to have a choice, and you can write to me, as it seems to you, how it is better to do. And so we go into the editing mode, copy the loop, separate it, and delete all modifiers except the mirror, we just turn it off for now. We unite the vertices and align the distance and number of vertices opposite each other. But now we manually unite the vertices like this at an angle. When selected, then select everything and fill with the F button. This is how the wireframe modifier will work. This is the thing we got, now we can adjust the thickness in the modifier. We need to adjust the vertices so that the part fits normally with the body. In general, we need to do a little more magic over it. This is a creative process, I show it as it is, so we will find a suitable result by trial and error, okay? Now as you can see in the reference the hood goes like this and there is also a stripe going down. I suggest we do this now. So we go into editing mode, add loops as we saw in the reference. But I will make one of them at an angle using a knife. A very useful thing, I recommend using it. Well, now we select the faces that will be the hood. Separate them. And now, the thing is that there are body modifiers left on the hood. Which means that in subdivision you need to turn off the keep corner setting. And the mirror needs to be placed first. And the miracle hood is ready, good. But I noticed that it is a bit cramped in this place, and decided to move the vertices to the side a little. Well, that's better, right? And so we are moving with you at a breakneck speed, but I try to make it clear. Now we create a horn. In those days, they honked like that. Add a circle mesh. Unfold, scale and fill with grid fill. Then simple movements, extrude, stretch and give the horn shape. I had one like this on my bike when I was a kid. If you don't know what it looks like, ask Google. Next, you need to install a mounting partition on which there will be headlights and horns. We do this with the help of the almighty cube. Scale it, stretch, add subdivision. add loops, so that one loop of them is in the middle and we can delete the left side. Next we add a mirror and need to make a platform on which this bar is attached to the body. We add a few more loops and stretch. In order to fix the shading, we swap the modifiers. Well, now we can move the horn here. They will be attached from below the bar, and there should actually be two of them, so we use a mirror and move on to the front headlight. Here are the references I used to create the headlight. Well, let's start by adding the almighty Q, and immediately press the combination Ctrl 2, which means that we add a subdivision surface with a division twice. Press / in order to isolate our object. Then press 1 on the numpad to look at the object at an angle of 90 degrees. Now obdivision needs to be raised to 3. And we apply this modifier so that the topology grid works. Now you can go into edit mode, press Alt-Z in order to turn on transparency and select these faces in order to delete them. Then select the extreme vertices and press the combination SX0, in order to align them along the X-axis. This is the detail we got. Now we can drag it to our mounting strip or partition, I don't know what to call it anymore. Now we can give it a little thickness, let's add the solidify modifier. And the subdivision surface modifier and the headlight surface became clear, and so we move on to the next element. As we saw in the reference, in the headlight is an ordinary old incandescent bulb. And that's exactly what we will create now. Take the reference, place it at an angle of 90 degrees, add a UV sphere and place it opposite the reference so that the upper part matches. Turn on the transparency mode and delete the lower half that does not match the example. And then step by step extrude the loops and adjust them to the size of the bulb and repeat its outline. Next, you need to make a thread. For this we use a cylinder, reduce it, using the combination Ctrl-R, add loops twice as many as thread rings. Then with the Alt key pressed, select the face rings through one and use the combination Alt-E to extrude the faces inward. And thus we create a thread. Press Ctrl 2 and add subdivision and then apply shade smooth. Adjust the size, everything was clear, and finish the lower part in accordance with the example. And so we made the outer part. Now we need to make an element, the one that glows. It's a little more complicated here. Add a plane, reduce it, expand and delete the bottom edge. Then apply the scale, this is important. Then select the two upper vertices from the Ctrl-Shift-B combination and subdivide them. Next, convert this element to a curve, go to the curve settings, find the geometry tab and add a little depth. Now add another plane. Again reduce and expand. Put it opposite the antennae to which the spring that glows is attached. Go to Edit mode and delete the two central edges so that two remain on the edges. Then convert again and move the vertex so that it coincides with the reference. And immediately copy and reduce to make two whiskers smaller and correct the vertices. Now add the almighty cube, reduce it, add subdivision to it, and add a loop, and at the same time give the desired shape to a small round part that I do not know the name. If any of you know what this thing is called, write in the comments, I'm already interested. Now we return to the thin elements that we created. We need to convert them into curves and give them a little thickness, and check the box next to fill caps so that there are plugs at the edges of the curve. And not in the form of a pipe. Well, one more detail that needs to be made is a spring, the one that heats up and emits light. To do this, we create a plane, delete two of its vertices, and we are left with a straight line. We place it at the ends of our antennae in such a way as to unite them. In order not to create a second straight line, we apply the mirror modifier to this one. Then we apply this modifier and unite the remaining two vertices with each other using the F button. Now our task is to subdivide these three edges sufficiently. After that, we select all the vertices that we created. After subdividing, we go to the Select tab and find Deselect Checkers there, which allows us to select every other vertex and shift them down slightly along the z-axis. After which we can convert these edges into a curve and set the depth. And when I already thought that everything was ready, I realized that I missed two legs in the center. So, in the already known way, we add a plane, reduce it, rotate it and place it opposite the reference. Delete two central edges, convert to curve and set depth. Now all the elements are ready, you can apply Shade Smooth to them. Next, for convenience, select all the elements and the one that was hidden, the glass of the bulb, and lastly select the thread and press the combination Ctrl P in order to bind them to the parent. Now when I move or scale the thread, all the elements follow it. I suggest moving the bulb closer to the headlight, we will place it in the center. Next, we have the opportunity to copy part of the faces from the horn, which we use for the part into which the bulb is screwed. Well, it has a mirror modifier, it needs to be deleted. Then in the location of the object we set 0 along the x-axis and we only have to align it along the z-axis in order to place it on the same level with the bulb, and we also need to slightly reduce the side where the bulb threads. The next part that we will make is the outer glass. In order to create it, you need to select the headlight housing, go to Edit Mode, select the inner edge loop, copy it and separate it from the object using the P button and select it in the selection menu. Just like the previous objects, the glass was separated along with the modifiers, so they need to be deleted. Next, we need to create the effect of bulges or, as it is called, a fish eye. Turn on proportional transformation, select the vertex in the center and drag it a little, then press Ctrl plus to select the neighboring faces and drag a little more, then repeat the operation, press Ctrl and drag a little more and repeat this to the edge. Then press Ctrl plus to select the adjacent faces and drag a little more, then repeat the operation, press Ctrl plus and drag a little more and repeat until the edge. To complete the operation, you need to select the extreme vertices and press the combination SX0. Then we get glass in the form of a lens. Next, select the bulb, the landing place for it, the glass and the headlight housing and copy them with the combination Shift-D, move along the Y-axis and increase. But since we should have two such large headlights, we therefore apply the mirror modifier, and the object relative to which we make the reflection, we select the mounting strip. The modifier worked only for the last object that was selected, this is glass. In order to fix this situation, you need to press the combination Ctrl-L and select Copy Modifiers, so all objects that are selected will copy the modifier from the lens. Okay, now the bulb, I placed it in a separate collection for convenience. It is necessary to copy it and place it in a large front headlight. But in order to do this as professionals do, watch the movements. Select the headlight housing, press the right mouse button and select Set Origin Point to the center of geometry. Then press the combination Shift-S and choose the cursor to select it. Thus the 3D cursor moves to the center of the geometry. Then select the thread of the bulb, and as you remember, all other elements are tied to it, and press Shift-S where we choose Selected to Cursor and the bulb moves to the 3D cursor. In large front headlights there is additional glass with diffusers. It is necessary to create it in the already known way. All the elements inside the headlights I tied to the headlight housing, so in order to move them I choose just the housings. I need to raise them up so that they don't interfere with working on the mounting strip. I want it to be slightly curved in the center. To do this, in Edit Mode you need to select the central face and slightly raise it along the Z-axis. I also added another edge loop and it's not just to make an arc. And in this place there will be a mount for the horn, so this is a very edge loop. In modeling, you always need to think ahead and plan your actions, like in chess several moves ahead. I liked the mount but this reference, I want to repeat it. A cylinder will help me with this. I add it to the scene and start working on it. It needs to be reduced in size, it needs to add loops on the side, which will give us the opportunity to select several faces from the top and squeeze them up along the Z-axis. This will be the mount of something similar to a reel, add a few more loops to strengthen the grid. Now we go into Edit Mode and select the topmost faces in order to align them using the combination SZ0. Well, now you can apply Shade Smooth and Subdivision Surface. As you can see, we did not add additional loops in vain, they even turned out to be not enough. Now you need to use the Eye to Insert button in the place where the face is round. Repeat on both sides. Add more loops in order to achieve the desired angles and now you can place this drum in place, a little to the left of the headlight, to give an aesthetic look. Well, you can place the horn in place. Next, our drum, which will produce sound, needs to be attached somehow to the mounting bar. Therefore, we need to make a place where it will be screwed. We go into editing mode and select the faces that need to be pressed inward using the combination Alt-E extrude face along normals. And on the mounting bar, we select the loop that we specially added earlier and divide it into two combinations Ctrl-B. Next, you need to select the face at the bottom, which is in the center, and squeeze it down along the Z-axis. Next, we can install the horn with the drum in its place, but the fact that the mount is uneven is striking. It needs to be corrected and the vertices aligned along the Y-axis. And also, but still, we will use the add-on with bolts and nuts. Since this design must be attached somehow, we add a regular bolt, but it needs to be slightly modified in editing mode. Delete the vertices with threads, we do not need them. We do this in order to optimize the number of faces in the scene, since when we start multiplying the bolts, we will get a lot of extra faces. So good, we can continue further. Now we need to make loops that will attach the headlights to the mounting plate. To do this, we use a cylinder, reduce it and stretch it along the length. Next, you need to add two edge loops in edit mode, and then use the Ctrl-B combination to divide each of them into two. And immediately press Alt-E to extrude the faces inward. And in this simple way we get a loop. And so we place it between the headlight and the mounting plate. Now we can apply the mirror modifier to make a loop on the other side. And for the headlight that is in the center, you just need to copy the loop. In order to set it in the center, I go to the object properties and set the number 0 opposite the Y-axis. Okay, the mount is ready. Now I want to modify the headlights a little, hide the glass in order to get to the inner part, and go into the editing mode of the landing place for the light bulb. You need to add additional edges to strengthen the topology. Also add the solidify and subdivision modifiers and the part takes on a completely different look. Agree. Now we need to make the side lights, which will be located on the wheel arches. To do this, go to the convenient menu on the left, select Add Almighty Cube, and the convenience of this menu is that I can immediately set the size of the cube that I need. Then, with simple manipulations, I begin to turn this cube into a side light bulb. We stretch it a little in length, add a subdivision. And in the editing mode, we begin to add edge loops so that they pass in those places where the glass will be. As the bulb should shine both forward and to the sides, I select the edges I need and double their number with the Ctrl-B combination. Then, immediately without resetting the selection, I press Alt-E to squeeze the faces inward. If we add Shade Smooth and another subdivision, we already see an almost finished element. I will add another edge loop at the very bottom so that the lower part is flat, for which it remains to put it in its place and select the size. This needs to be done before adding the mirror modifier, so that everything is clear. After we added the mirror modifier, we see a small problem. To fix it, we need to swap the modifiers, and whoosh, we fixed this. Let's go further. If desired, you can add another subdivision value. And I also noticed that you can narrow the back a little. Now it's definitely ready. And immediately proceed to the manufacture of the bumper. If all the elements of the car that we created are parented to the body, then it can be turned to face us and placed opposite the reference. This makes it possible to constantly look at the example. Well, first you need to slightly correct the body of the car so that there is a place where to place the bumper. Go to the editing mode and slightly shift the vertices. So add a plane to the scene, reduce it and rotate it 90 degrees. After that, step by step, begin to create the bumper. Add one edge in the center in order to remove the left side. This gives us the opportunity to add a mirror modifier and create only the right side and save time. Next, add one edge in the place where we want the bumper to bend. And add another edge in the place where we want to make a place for the license plate. Then apply subdivision to the bumper. In edit mode, add two longitudinal edges. If you look at the reference, you can see that the bumper at the end has some kind of rounding, so to create them, you need to add another edge in the place where the rounding will be. Now I suggest selecting all the faces and extruding them along the Y-axis to set the thickness of the bumper. To create rounding, select the faces and extrude them along the Y-axis, but so far we have a rectangle. So we add another edge and stretch it along the X-axis. Next we add a few more edges to round the bumper. Also, we need to add edge in those places where we want to make clear transitions. Now we are ready to add the bevel modifier, but it does not work because they need to be swapped subdivision. Now we have a sharp angle on the edge of the bumper. In order to smooth it out, we need to merge the adjacent vertices together in the center. Then adjust the angle a little manually. I add another edge loop to make a rounding, and I understand one such moment, that the bevel modifier turned out to be unnecessary. It works in those places where I don't need it, so I delete it and add edges manually in those places where I need to strengthen the topology. In the place of the long bumper element there is a small wave inward, so we select 3 adjacent faces and press them. The bumper is ready to apply the mirror modifier, but do not forget to put a tick opposite the clipping. This is so that the vertices are connected at the point x equals 0. In order for the mirror modifier to work correctly, it must be before the subdivision. There is another trick. In order for there to be no folds on the part, you need to delete the faces inside the part, at the point of contact. For some reason, this is not visible on our bumper, but on the other things I did there were folds. I'll just make a few more adjustments here and it's done, for now. Next I want to move on to making silver moldings. They are located at the bottom behind the bumper, supposedly on the seams of the body. Therefore, to create them, we go into editing mode and select the faces in order to copy them and separate them from the body. Then, in object mode, we select our moldings. We go into editing mode, use the up button to select all the vertices and extrude them up along the Z-axis. After that, you can leave the subdivision and mirror modifiers. But since the corners are rounded, you need to add additional edge loops to give the desired shape. Those who watched the video in full, you are generally cool guys. If you want to support the channel and the author, I created a Patreon. Since creating such videos takes a lot of time and I do it alone, then you can subscribe and support me and my work. I will be grateful to you for this. Link in the description. Well, or at least do not forget to put a like. Well, as always, learn hot buttons. They will make your life easier. Take your time. Try different settings and pray for Ukraine. Thanks, bye.